Support for this podcast comes from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, connecting communities with the resources, infrastructure, and networks to ensure a vibrant local free press.
From KVPR in Fresno, this is Central Valley Daily. Happy Friday, it's November 8th. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. Recently, protesters gathered outside a casino in the foothills of Madera County. They were speaking out after hundreds of people were disenrolled from the Chukchansi Indian tribe.
There has been no due process. There is no tribal court that has been established to let these individuals plead their case to a higher authority.
Coming up, we'll hear from the former chairwoman of the Picayune Rancheria of Chukchansi Indians. She was also disenrolled from the tribe. But first, today's headlines. California Attorney General Rob Bonta says his office is prepared to oppose any illegal actions by the next Trump administration. Speaking to reporters at San Francisco's Crissy Field on Thursday, Bonta says he has plans in place to litigate against many of Trump's campaign proposals, including mass deportations and rolling back LGBTQ+ rights.
What he's able to do is different than what he'll try. That's why we exist, to stop him from doing the unlawful things that he wants to do when they're unlawful, and to hold him in check in court so that he can't do that.
Bonta says the California Attorney General's office sued the Trump administration over 100 times during the last administration, and nearly all of those cases were successful. Governor Gavin Newsom is calling for a special legislative session in December to respond to the re-election of Donald Trump. Newsom says he wants to, quote, Trump-proof California. Newsom is one of Trump's fiercest critics. He's hoping the session can position the state to counter Trump's actions on climate change, reproductive rights, and immigration. On the campaign trail, Trump repeatedly attacked California and threatened to withhold disaster aid. Federal health officials are recommending more dairy workers be tested for avian influenza. As KVPR's Esther Quintanilla reports, the virus has now reached more than 200 dairies in California and at least 21 dairy workers.
The State Department of Food and Agriculture has confirmed bird flu in cattle at 236 dairies in Central California. Detections in birds have also risen in recent weeks. In just the last month, more than 1.5 million California birds have been euthanized to prevent the virus's spread, including commercial flocks of chickens and turkeys. Previously, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Center recommended testing only those dairy workers who report symptoms. Now, the agency recommends that all workers on farms with infected cows be tested, even if they don't have symptoms. For KVPR News, I'm Esther Quintanilla.
Voters in California's 32nd Assembly District will likely head back to the polls next year to choose a state representative again. That's because Vince Fong is on track to win the seat with nearly 60% of the vote so far. The problem, he also won his congressional seat in District 20. Fong cannot hold both offices at the same time. California Secretary of State Shirley Weber previously told KVPR this scenario would trigger a new election. In Fong's state assembly race, another name was on the ballot, but he only received 40% of the vote at the latest count.
Getting rid of an old car can be a pain, especially if it's in disrepair. But fear not, the KVPR Vehicle Donation Program is here to help. We'll tow away that old vehicle and use the proceeds to support the news you rely on. And we accept all kinds of vehicles, including motorcycles, boats, and RVs. Learn more at kvpr.org/cars.
And now to our main story. In 2014, the Picayune Rancheria of Chukchansi Indians made headlines after an armed faction of the tribe tried to take over the Chukchansi Gold Resort and Casino in Coarse Gold. Federal and state officials forced the tribe to close the casino for months. It reopened in December 2015. That incident came after a long brewing conflict within the tribe. Today, there is new tension over what's known as disenrollment. Recently, over 100 people gathered outside the casino in the foothills of Madera County. They were there to protest the disenrollment of hundreds of members from the Chukchansi Rancheria. Claudia Gonzales served on the Rancheria's tribal council between 2015 and 2022, including some time as tribal chair. but she's also among those who were disenrolled from the tribe. Gonzales recently joined me for a conversation about this. She starts by telling us what it means to be disenrolled in the first place.
Disenrollment can mean disfranchising an individual from their tribe, or another way to look at disenrollment, meaning that you are no longer Native American. So basically, the tribe is now setting forth and telling an individual or a family that they are no longer Native American, nor do they have Native American heritage. And that's very upsetting because obviously you can't help being born with ancestry that ties you back and bloodlines that tie you back to direct lineal descendants of allotments or people that have been or still Native American.
So let's talk about what's prompting this. This has been an ongoing issue with the tribe, including with you participating in a protest last month outside the casino with other disenrolled members. Can you speak more about why this is the case and how many people have been disenrolled over the last couple of decades?
Over the last couple of decades, Picayune Rancheria has had its off and on times. I would say approximately within the last 2 years, over 400 tribal members, ranging from elders all the way to young newborns, have been disenrolled over the last 2 years. Our tribe has had a history of paper genocide since the very beginning of the tribe. Back in the early 2000s, I believe there was another 400, not maybe even more people that were disenrolled prior to that. It just seems like something that it's not going to stop. It's going to continue on. And people do ask what's causing this. People are tribal members. The people that have been disenrolled within the last 2 years, I can speak of most recently because I have, and I know the factual documentation and I've seen it. These people are tribal members. They meet the criteria underneath the Constitution that's currently there at Picayune Rancheria. And they're doing it basically out of greed. The more people that they cut from their enrollment files, it ups their per capita payments.
When you say paper genocide, what are you referring to?
Paper genocide to me is a way for a tribe to cut out current enrolled members. It's basically taking their heritage and their identity away from these members, and they're doing it through unjust acts of their current constitution and their lawlessness.
So when you say that they're doing this out of greed, why would less members mean more money for certain people? Can you explain that?
Yeah. Currently, tribal members receive per capita payments, which is revenue from the casino operations, and it is split up equally into all eligible members of the tribe. So if there is a higher count of membership in the tribe, then that means that that money will be divided up equally amongst those members. So if they go back and they start cutting membership, or if they start saying that they are now cleaning up their rolls, or if they're auditing their rolls, which I know is disenrollment, that means they're cutting out eligible members from receiving those per capita benefits. So that automatically drives up the per capita payments for those members that are still currently eligible.
And what is the argument to these folks who are being disenrolled? What are they being told?
From what I've seen within the last 2 years, there's no justification for any of it. There has been no due process. There is no tribal court that has been established to let these individuals plead their case to a higher authority. You have a tribal council sitting in power, and you have an enrollment committee that's sitting in power that are breaking endless laws within their own constitution. And the tribal council is not holding the enrollment committee to any actions. They continue to break their own laws and create them as they move along. And the tribal council does nothing about it and sits back and watches as per capita payments increase for those that still remain.
So what's next? Is it possible that those who've been disenrolled could be brought back into the tribe? What recourse do you have?
I absolutely believe that the 400 people from the past 2 years, and even people prior to that, could be brought back into the tribe because of the due process and the lack of it, the lack of them following their own laws, the fact that the Department of the Interior is turning a blind eye, them themselves do not even follow the correct process underneath law. There is currently a class action suit out there asking the Department of Justice and the Department of Interior to take another look at their own procedures. And us finally organizing as a peaceful protest, we're just trying to bring this to everyone's attention, that this cannot continue to happen. Otherwise, there'll be mass chaos in the future. And because they're only continuing to cut people from their membership, and they're hurting their own community, let alone putting their patrons in jeopardy from our own past actions. Not that this current group is looking to go into the casino facility or cause any kind of turmoil as that, but definitely we will be raising the awareness for everyone to see, because this is not just happening here within our tribe. This is actually happening throughout Indian country in general.
That was my conversation with Claudia Gonzales. She's the former chairwoman of the Picayune Rancheria of Chukchansi Indians. Earlier this year, she was disenrolled from the tribe. After our interview with Gonzales, KVPR reached out to the Chukchansi tribe multiple times for comment, but we've not received a response. We also contacted the U.S. Department of Interior and their Bureau of Indian Affairs. Officials there issued a written response to Claudia's claims that the Interior Department could do something to stop the disenrollment. They wrote, quote, "The Department of the Interior honors tribal sovereignty and supports tribal self-determination. Each tribe has its own laws and policies regarding tribal enrollment. The principles of tribal sovereignty limit the Bureau of Indian Affairs' legal authority to intervene in internal tribal disputes." End quote. KVPR will continue to follow this issue. And that does it for today. Thank you for listening. We would love to hear from you. If you have feedback for the show or would like to share a story idea, just email us at podcast@kvpr.org. Today's episode was produced by Jonathan Linden and KVPR with support from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. Find the latest local news anytime at kvpr.org.
No matter what happens in Washington, the NPR Politics Podcast is here for you. For the latest news, insights, and analysis from the election and beyond, listen to the NPR Politics Podcast.